Jumbo community. Thank you for joining us. Today is the second day of our community Kwanzaa celebration here in Flagstaff. This is a lived Black experience project, and we are taking these next 4 or 5 more days to celebrate Kwanzaa, which in Swahili means the first harvest. I thought about it last evening. This is actually the 54th year of Kwanzaa. And this celebration, for those of you who were not able to join us on last evening, this celebration of Blackness, of Black achievement, of Black excellence was created by Dr. Karinga 54 years ago now. And so yesterday we started our celebration with the very first principle. There are 7 principles of Kwanzaa, which are called the Nguzo Saba. And so yesterday we began our celebration with day 1, where we acknowledged umoja, and umoja means unity. This evening, we're here celebrating Kujichagulia, which means self-determination. And we have a very, very special guest who's going to share with us what self-determination is. And so I'm very pleased to welcome, first of all of our viewers, and I'm very extra pleased to welcome our very special guest this evening, the Honorable Coral Evans. Happy Kwanzaa, Coral.
Happy Kwanzaa, Reverend Lewis. How are you? Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for day 2 of Kwanzaa. And it's absolutely my honor to have the opportunity to reflect on this principle for today, the principle of self-determination. It's interesting when we think about self-determination, we understand that it's actually 2 different words. It's self and determination put together. No, the word self is actually a noun, and it means the union of elements, such as the body, the emotions, thoughts, and sensations. What constitutes the individuality and the identity of a person? Self is the entire being, the entire person of an individual. And determination, also a noun, is the act of coming to a decision or of fixing or settling a purpose. The act of deciding definitely and firmly, a firm or fixed intention toward the achievement of a desired end. It's the art or the process are the result of an accurate measurement. And that's very important, an accurate measurement. You know, when you put the 2 words together, the definition is free choice of one's own acts, free choice of one's own action. The first known use of the word self-determination was somewhere around 1670. 1670 is when this word came into being. I think in a world, in a society such as ours that has established conformity, right? Rules and regulations and really rigid parameters, and operates really loudly. You know, our world operates really loudly, really quickly. There is often the sense that we as individuals, we don't have the freedom to determine for ourselves who we are, who we will become, and how our story is going to be and how our story is going to be written. You know, there's an African proverb that says, if there are no enemies within, then there can be none outside. And really, when you look at self-determination, it really means for me stopping and stepping outside of the noise, or possibly stepping directly into the eye of the storm. You know, assessing the situation, the activity that brought us to that particular point, assessing the state of our entire beings, who we are, where we came from, what our intentions are, what our true measurement is. And it's allowing us then to establish our response to that. You know, there is an African proverb as well that says, I am not what you call me, but what I answer to, right? What I answer to. You know, it's the act of understanding that our value, our true measurement of ourselves and our entire being is not tied to our title. It's not tied to a job. It's not tied to the house you live in or the car you drive. No matter what society is being loud about, it's us remembering with self-determination and focus that it's our story that's being written and that we get to decide who gets written in and who gets written out and when those activities happen. You know, self-determination is about rising each and every time through the pain, through the hardship, through the laughter, through the joy, through the stumbling. It's about rising. So let's hear a poem, shall we?
Everyone in the world has gone to bed one night or another with fear or pain or loss or disappointment. And yet each of us has awakened, arisen, somehow made our ablution, seen other human beings, and said, morning, how are you? Fine, thanks, and you? It's amazing. Wherever that abides in the human being, there is the nobleness of the human spirit. Despite it all, black and white, Asian, Spanish, Native American, pretty, plain, thin, fat, vowed or celibate, we rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just because I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like suns and like moons, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just because I laugh. As if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words. You can cut me with your lies. You can kill me with your hatefulness. But just like life, I'll rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh, does it come as a surprise that I dance as if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain, I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, naturally, there I go rising.
So for me as a Black woman, I determine my sense of self-determination. I believe that all Black Americans, that our sense of self-determination and resiliency is rooted in our ancestry sense of self. You know, the strength of it is forged out of our people's historical trauma. The foundation of our self-determination is laid with their blood, sweat, and tears. It is not by accident that we can be in the middle of chaos and drama and negativity, and still somehow we seem to be at peace, and we still seem to be determined to rise. The ability to make that shot when you grew up playing on a court that didn't have a net or a hoop. You know, the ability to become the superintendent, the state superintendent of schools in a state with the 5th largest economy in the world when you started out as a janitor. It's the ability to become a billionaire when your parents were sharecroppers. You know, self-determination is the ability to become the president of the United States of America, when you are the likely descendant of John Punch. And John Punch is the man who's considered to be the first official slave in the English colonies. So with that in mind, I asked that we all reflect on these words that are from Dr. Claude Anderson. So, you tell me, someone down your ancestry line survived being chained to other human beings for several months in the bottom of a disease-infested ship during the Middle Passage, lost their language, their customs, and their transitions, picked up the English language as best they could while working free of charge from sunup to sundown, as they watched babies sold from their arms and women raped by ruthless slave owners. Took names with no last names, no birth certificates, no heritage of any kind, braved the Underground Railroad, survived Civil War to enter into sharecropping, learned to read and write out of sheer will and determination, faced burning crosses of the KKK, and averted their eyes when Black bodies hung like strange fruit swinging from ropes on a tree, fought in world wars as soldiers to return home to America as boys, marched in Birmingham, hosed in Selma, jailed in Wilmington, assassinated in Memphis, segregated in the South and ghettoed in the North, ignored in history books, and stereotyped in Hollywood. And despite all of that, someone in your family line endured every error to make sure that you could get here. Self-determination is making sure that we rise. Despite that one rejection, despite having to face that one obstacle, despite losing a friend, getting overlooked. You know, how dare we entertain even the notion of quitting? Because our people that we don't even know, our people survived from generation to generation to generation to get us to where we're at now so that we could succeed. So again, I believe that Black Americans' sense of self-determination and sense of resiliency is rooted in our ancestral sense of self and understanding at our core who we are and what our value is. And that is forged from our historical trauma, and our foundation is firmly laid with their blood, sweat, and tears. And it's not by accident that we can be in the middle of chaos and somehow still seem to be able to find our sense of peace and our north compass and our will and our determination.
Right on, Sister Mayor. I'm speechless, but you know, as you speak of self-determination, and I'm looking at you on the screen, you are definitely the picture of self-determination. And I wonder if you would just share with our community what has kept you grounded throughout your trials and tribulations, both personally and professionally. Do you think that what we're talking about, being rooted and grounded, we acknowledge that we stand on the backs of our ancestors? Can you maybe share your personal story of self-determination?
Oh, well, first of all, I think it's really important for me to acknowledge my people and where I came from. I am very much aware that, I grew up in the projects here in Flagstaff, Arizona. I'm very much aware that my grandparents came from Louisiana, that my grandfather only made it to third grade, and my grandmother made it to seventh grade. The fact that my mom was the first in our family to graduate with a college degree, and then her sisters and brothers followed, and that I am third generation. And that my daughter is fourth generation. I think it's very important for us to understand our history and understand where we came from and understand that we are comprised of all of those things, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, the difficult, the hard to get along with. That is who makes us as individuals. And that is what gives us our foundation to move forward. And I'm not sitting here saying that, self-determination means that everything is going to be easy and we're looking at things through rose-colored glasses. Things are hard. Right now, we're in the world of COVID. Things are hard. Before there was COVID, things were hard. We went through the Black Lives Matter movement for the third or fourth time. And since then, there's a statistic that there's almost another 100 people who have died just since May. But it's about recognizing and staying true to who you are as a person and staying true to your character. And we don't do this by ourselves. When you asked me that question, my very first thought went to the fact that when I ran for mayor in 2015, I made my announcements from the steps at City Hall, and I had to have help getting up on this little rock wall so I could do my speech. People didn't know that I had just left my radiation treatment, and that when I decided to run for mayor, after I put it out there, a week later, I was found out I was diagnosed with breast cancer for the second time in my life, the second time. And had it not been for, we called it Team Coral, the people that came around me and helped me, right? They were like that wall, kind of like that moat when you talk about a castle and you talk about that defense mechanism. And this goes back to the fact that I said that this is our story and we get to determine who is in our story, who is out our story, and really the different roles and stuff people are allowed to play. The first time I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was diagnosed at the age of 29, on the same day that my mom had been diagnosed with breast cancer the year before. My mom was given a month to live. She lived 8 months. And I was told that because I was healthy, I would make it 6 to 12 months. And so I think that self-determination has a lot to do with you determining who's around you and you making sure that your faith is strong, right? And there's people that say hope is not a strategy. You know what I mean? And I agree with that. Hope is not a strategy, but hope is one heck of a powerful force. You combine that with deliberate action, it works.
That it does, and I've seen that, and it's been quite humbling and a pleasure to walk some of this journey with you. Yesterday we celebrated umoja, which is unity, and then today we're on the second day being Kujichagulia, self-determination, which is what we're talking about now. Can you maybe speak to how you see the two tying in together, unity and self-determination?
Unity has to do, in my mind, with community, right? And I think self-determination has to do with the individual sense of purpose within that. And if we are all working to our individual purpose, mindfully and carefully, and in positively, we can impact so many things in our community. You know, on the front page of the newspaper today, the organization of the year was our community. The organization of the year here in Flagstaff was the Flagstaff community overall. That shows you what we can do when we're all working together, right? With a sense of purpose, with determination. Yes, COVID is a thing, and it's horrible, and it's horrendous, and it has killed approximately 190 people in our community. But because we were working together as a community, there were lives that were saved. There were people that the impacts were minimized. There were people that were fed. There were people who have their kids being taught. There are people who didn't lose their house. There are people who still have a job. And that is because of the sense of community and the wraparound that the community showed. Again, with a sense of purpose, with a sense of self-determination, with the fact that we are going to rise above whatever this is. And this is not the first time the community has come together. I think back to the museum fire. I think back to the flooding that we've had, you know, each and every single time.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm very I'm also humbled to be able to say that I'm a part of this community and witnessed your leadership, your wisdom, your guidance, your energy that brought the community together, and helped us to find that self-determination within each of us as individuals, and then we come together, and you'll see you've said some of the key words of the principles that we're celebrating this week. So tomorrow is Ujima, the third day of our Kwanzaa celebration, where we will be talking about collective work and responsibility. And so it's beautiful to see how all of these principles tie in, how they're interconnected with one another. And we certainly thank you for joining us this evening to share with us self-determination, Kujichagulia. And I'm very pleased that you will come back on the fourth day to talk about another principle. So I'm very excited about that. So community, as we come to an end of our second day of celebrating Kwanzaa, which again means the first harvest. And we are each day going to invite a special guest to come in to talk about the principle of the day. So yesterday again was umoja, which is unity. Today, Kujichagulia, self-determination. And tomorrow we will celebrate ujima, which is collective work and responsibility. And so each day we light a candle. Yesterday we lit the unity candle. And so this evening we acknowledge, we celebrate, we embrace Kujichagulia, self-determination. Please come back tomorrow and join us in this community Kwanzaa celebration. Peace and blessings, and we look forward to seeing you again. Good evening.